Hey, we are live. Finally. Back again. Now, let's see how we look. Can you see me? Have I got half a head here or have I got my full head in the screen? We will find out very soon. There we go. I can see my monitor. And you got half a head. Just let me fix this up for everyone. Okay, we're going to have some problems here. Bear with me, everyone, if you've got the patience. If you haven't, that's all right. It's only going to get better eventually. Move that in a bit more, might be able to hold him in. Stop him. So if it falls, it'll only fall a little bit. Okay. Here we are. Okay, let's get going. A bit late on the show. You want to come and say hello? Do you want to come and say hello? Come and say hello. Hello, little rascal. Good morning. Good morning, Sunday stretch. Good to see you all. Good you all see me. As I will allude to you, I have got the mug, the face, the looks that belong behind the microphone in the radio station. But we're working on appearances, aren't we, Nick? Yeah, because somebody in my corner, in my support crew, need me to come back out and start talking to you about things like mainly what I can speak about the most in this country in today's climate. In what we see in the media every day is Aboriginal Australia. Now, why can I speak about Aboriginal Australia a lot fluently, a lot more freedom in my speech, a lot more heart in what I believe in Aboriginal Australia is because I am Aboriginal Australian, which is, you know, I hang my hat on that. There's a pride in that. There is. It's not a national pride, but it's inside the national pride, I guess. But what I do know, and I'm not born yesterday, as you are not too, is there's a lot of things issues. There's lots of point that about Aboriginal Australia that if you say something, in fact, a lot of you here in this country and other countries, I would guess too, because it seems to be a culture wars everywhere, you're not allowed to say anything, otherwise you'll be deemed as racist. If you have a business and you say something that offends the feelings of somebody, it's racist. It's not. It's not. Not in this country, not in Australia. And I suggest a lot of Western worlds. We're developing, we're advancing, we're evolving, and we're a lot better. Do you know why we're a lot better? Consider this. You're looking at me on a TV screen like a superstar, not even. But you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't know what I mean. So let's not get too stuck on situations. I'm here. I'll speak for you. I want you to support my channel. In the pure fact is I want to take up a fight for you guys. I know that some people with business want to say something and put it out on the social medias platforms, they may lose their business because people will condemn them and condone them as that is a racist opinion. We don't want to paint everybody with the same brush. No, because there's one thing as an Aboriginal person in this country is I despise the most. And it's the number one battle we got is the stereotyping. Okay? Yes, you're looking at an Aboriginal Australia. No, I haven't got the war paint on. I haven't got the spear. I didn't go out and rub me two sticks together and get the fire going so I could have a cup of coffee this morning. No, I used the amenities of what a big city offers you. So I'm a different stereotypical Aboriginal person, I guess. The thing that you're used to on TV, especially, I only say that to people that have never ventured out of the city. um, may see the images from other states where they live in custom, traditional, semi-Western lifestyle, but no, we in the city only try to preserve um, any part of history that's going to advance us these days. You had to talk about 50, 60, 70 years ago. Oh, could have been different. Tell you what, I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s, and I'll tell you what, I didn't. The way it's been spoken out in media, it's just it doesn't seem to be what I experienced. I did experience the good sides and the bad sides, but age has not wearied this old fella. I just kept on exploring and looking for the positives, the attitude of positiveness, the attitude of problem solving, the attitude of dialogue, the aptitude of walking into a room and knowing that somebody there is going to identify me as an Aboriginal, and they're going to ask a question, aren't they? Because what do they see? Only what they see on TV, only what they see on the newspapers. So, as a part of that, I'm trying to pledge out to you that I want to make this channel yours. I want to deliver for the quiet Australians, the quiet citizen of the world, the one that just likes to head down, backside up, and just knuckle down and do work and do it for no praises, accolades, or anything. I want to speak for you. I know you got heart. I know you got mind. I know it clicks together and it comes up with what you know is right to be and what is wrong to be. And I just want to encourage you that the freedom of thought, the freedom of speech, you deserve that. You've earned that. Do you know why? Many decades of conflicts, hardships, depressions, financial downturns of just, everything accumulates to I don't know where I'm going with that, but I'm an off the cuff fella. I'm a drop of the hat fella too much, I know, but I'll work with you if you work with me, and that's just the bottom line. I've got no investment in this at all. If anything, I'm going to lose a lot, but it doesn't matter. Working from the ground up is my forte. I love from the bottom up approach. It's my thing. So anyway, without me waffling on and boring you stupid and it's like, what is this man on about? Well, I'll tell you, I'm gonna learn this. I'm improving myself in front of you. I got a lazy tongue. I have a lazy tongue and I need to start speaking with nice, correct pronunciations. I need to do some more reading and I need to get some more information for you that can be clearly understood. So I am no better than you. I'm no worse than you either. No, I want to be an equal in this channel here. And if you can keep me account to it, fine. You want to go out and be an adversary, an opposition to me, fine. Like, dislike, share, say that you don't like him and we should challenge this man, do it. Sacrifice. They used to put kids into volcanoes for rain. I'm only just offering you my service and my heart, my mind, and my partner too, who's on the same wavelength as me. And we've done a bit. Pair of us, there's about 100 years experience between the both of us. So, yeah, it's all good. So what I'm going to do is just go through the Senator Jacinta Price's maiden speech with you. I'm just going to play it. I can't do these little screen tap and then you see the article and I can click it there because I don't know yet. But the more I plan on getting myself out on the streets of Melbourne, the more I'm going to bump into people that say, Nick, you need to do this, fix it this way, and bang, and then I'll go out and I'll get you Joe Citizen and Mary Citizen off the street, and I'll have a chat if they want to. And if you referring through this video just to check me out, you can see I'm struggling for numbers here at the moment, but I would really like to just not produce anything here for me. I really want to give something back to the world, to my country, and the people who put a ton of resources and energy, and I want to give back. And it's as simple as that. So without further ado, I'm just going to launch into this speech, and I might stop it. We might have a chat. There's a couple of things in here I'm sure we might need to go over. It is actually the one that we will practice the most before we go any further into the speech. Is we owe a bit of common decency and respect for Senator Jacinta Price. She has an Aboriginal name, and let's try it together and learn how to say that together. So let's have a listen.
To order, I now call Senator Nampijinpa Price.
Okay, Nampijinpa Price. Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Say it. Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. That's very important. As I hear her speeches, I think she wants everyone to know how to say Jacinta Nampijinpa Price correctly. So let's try that. So practice that one. I will. I'm rusty too. I speak better English than Aboriginal.
Make her first speech and ask senators that the usual courtesies be extended to her. I call Senator Nampijinpa Price.
Here. Thank you, Madam President. I am immensely honoured to be standing here before you as part of the 47th Parliament of Australia as the Senator for the Northern Territory. The Northern Territory is not only geographically Australia's gateway to Southeast Asia, but it is a place of rich diversity and spectacular landscape. We boast some of the largest agricultural and mining industries operations in the nation, along with prevalent representation of multiculturalism, Aboriginal land titles, and language-speaking Aboriginal people. As a true Territorian, it is this rich mix of coexistence that makes me proud to say I always was and always will be a proud Australian. The growth of the Northern Territory and our government as the youngest state or territory in Australia has been rapid and should not be lost in any dialogue. The Territory, as its own jurisdiction of self-governance, is 2 years older than I am. My mother was born under a tree and lived within an original Warlpiri structured environment through a kinship system on Aboriginal land. Her first language was Warlpiri, and her parents, my
Warlpiri? Can we all say Warlpiri?
parents, had only just come into contact with white settlers in their early adolescence. Despite this rapid advancement, much has been achieved and gained. The Northern Territory calls a spade a spade. We are realists, and this is likely due to the direct connection to our environment.
Good man.
We have space to think.
MP.
And the harsh reality of our country is that you need to be very aware of your surroundings and yourself.
Good vision.
Otherwise, you could perish rather quickly. We have a foundation of a sophisticated but brutal culture, where it was kill or be killed over resources such as water, women, and later livestock, food for survival. Or from doing the wrong thing, like marrying the wrong way or sharing knowledge that's not yours to share. Like many countries around the world, when cultures collide and are forced to find ways through socialisation, everyone is affected. Often, those that are left behind become even more marginalised and are preyed upon by many opportunists for monetary gain, power, and control. This is no different to what we are experiencing in the Northern Territory by Labor design. Wadeye, Tennant Creek, my family's community of Yuendumu, nobody in Australia can pretend they don't know the names of these places, and for all the worst reasons. Despite billions being spent, the violence and despair that puts these places and many others like them in the headlines is not changing. We need change, and we need the right legislation to effect it. My vision, my hope, my goal is that we can effect change that will see women, children, and other victims in these communities become as safe as any of those living in Sydney, Melbourne, or any other Australian city.
That's very true. Now, there is a bit of an issue going on between city and bush here, and that needs to be addressed by the government, MPs and other senators, and the media, is to start discussing about what is the difference between the city and the bush and the country. What's the difference between big city and 60 to 100 k's out that way, or that way, or that way, or that way. Australians deserve to know what's going on in their environments, especially if they're not travelling any further from the schoolhouse to home, and maybe to a bit of an activity and shopping in the shopping centre. You media mob and you politicians, you owe the truth to Australians. Let's get on with this.
My goal is to halt the pointless virtue signalling and focus on the solutions that bring real change, that changes the lives of Australia's most vulnerable citizens. Solutions that give them real lives, not the enduring nightmare of violence and terror they currently live.
I have to interlude that is what's happening in Northern Territory. That's what's happening in WA. That's what's happening in Queensland. It's what's happening, and it's happening everywhere. But there happens to be there's a difference between. It's very visible, the violence. It's very visible, the domestic violence. It's very visible, the crimes against each other. It's visible in certain country areas. In the city, we all like to keep it. No. That doesn't happen here that much. Or, it's quiet. It's hidden. It's silent. And it's deadly. Not deadly cool, deadly bad, because you got a whole nation here that's saying, yes, there's a problem happening there in the Northern Territory, in the district, the Lingaring, and other areas. But there's problem in the city too. But the problem with our same issues, silent. It's behind closed door, and we don't talk about that. We don't say that. My goodness, that's so 1950s, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with it.
It is not good enough that the streets of our Northern Territory towns and other towns across regional Australia have gangs of children aged 6 to 16 wandering around with no adult supervision in the early hours of the morning.
That's not good. How are you going to get a good job if you're not getting much school or much sleep in the night? We tend to have that sort of carry on on a weekend, and in the city, very rarely will you hear some carry on like that with 6 to 8 to 10-year-old kids kept awake because the party houses just won't shut up for the night and let them have the weekday for themselves, and they can't remove themselves to a place. They've got no confidence to go drink anywhere else but sit in this just vicious cycle. Anyway, let's go on.
It's not good enough that almost all of these children have witnessed or been subject to normalised alcohol abuse, domestic, family, and sexual violence throughout their young lives, and is the reason for their presence on our streets.
I have to say, it's not new there in the bush or here in the city.
Such neglect in great numbers would not be accepted in the prosperous suburbs of our capital cities.
It's only acceptable because they won't address it. They say it doesn't happen in the city. But hey, you go get that mirror, city people, have a look, and you know it's happening here too. Maybe not as in a group that live together in a whole community. We're talking 100 at least. You might have your suburb and they're all spread out, but it happens, and you know this city. But let's talk about the district of Lingaring and their problem, and let get behind them. Let us get behind this senator and keep these media mongrel moguls accountable to report to you. And let's get these other politicians start speaking with their heart and their mind and stop going by script and everything will be all right. Just trust me. I will make sure that everything will go right. You and your bank account, will it? Legislation change, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Hobart, Perth, Darwin. Did I miss anyone? Stradbroke Island, wasn't it? No, what's the other one? Norfolk Island. Funny mob, that one. Anyway, let's get back onto it.
My colleague and Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Julian Leeser, witnessed firsthand these scenes on the streets of my hometown of Alice Springs and nearby communities on his recent visit. I don't know where else in Australia a member of federal parliament can provide a tour of the numerous places their direct family members have been violently murdered or died of alcohol abuse, suicide, or alcohol-related accidents. On one route, I pointed out 7 separate incidents relating to places we had visited and made reference to numerous other incidents across the Northern Territory, all just within my own family.
See white Australia, see multicultural Australia. We ain't fighting with you. We're too busy fighting with each other and keeping dark, dirty secrets.
Just last week, 30-year-old mother of 3, Alina, Tamina, Kukla, and her 2-month-old baby boy, Orlando, were shot dead in what is coming to light as a murder-suicide. The families involved and our community are reeling from these not only deeply tragic, but I believe avoidable murders.
Absolutely. But Melbourne, once you figure out how Essendon's going to change their coach over today, when you figure that out, can you get on to this?
From conversations with her family, I've been informed her alleged killer had a history of violence, mental illness, and was due to face court for perpetrating violence against a former partner.
Okay, Melbourne, sports capital of this nation, right? Melbourne player caught their big AFL investigation. He cried on the ground. When you're finished investigating AFL, politicians, media lies, have a go at this.
We have a well-oiled supposed justice system in the Northern Territory that acts as a turnstile for offenders. More often than not, instead of being remanded, perpetrators are put on bail. And more often than not, while on bail, they perpetrate more violence. If the perpetrator had been dealt with appropriately, 8-year-old Isaiah and 3-year-old Tyson would not be without a mother and baby brother.
You understanding, City? Same problems you got. It's got nothing to do with one particular group in this country. The whole country suffers this vermin behaviour that is happening in the country, and you let your media lies go and tell you about, oh my gosh, we've got the Commonwealth Games coming. We must make the best show in the world so we look so good to the rest of the world. Yeah. Keep listening to Jacinta Napier-Price, Senator. She wants to make legislation. She wants new legislation that's not going to just be, it's going to use an Aboriginal model and address that problem there. But I'm telling you, Australia, this legislation can make everybody safe. Everybody. So we got to stop this culture war. We got to stop this 3 different people in Australia. We won, eh? One country, one people now, are we? Sorry for.
The system is broken when it serves perpetrators exceptionally better than victims. Another Indigenous woman in Katherine was killed by a woman close to her in a domestic violence incident in the same week. These killings occur so regularly in the Northern Territory that locals can't help but feel desensitisation. Perhaps it is because of the scant or often wrong reporting from the media or the reluctance of the police media to report publicly.
What I say?
These days, we rely on social
What do
media
you
and
say?
independent media outlets to provide our Territory communities with relevant details. The mainstream media have largely been silent on these latest killings. It has not sparked nationwide protests because the Indigenous victims have died at the hands of Indigenous perpetrators.
It's an Australian problem, people. They're Australian citizens. I carried on like that here in the city. What would you do? You'd have the whole force here, wouldn't you? But it's all right because out of mind, out of sight. I'm telling you, wait till it happens to you. She wants to make legislation for a whole country. So this doesn't happen to no matter what race you are, what your location is, that you as a woman, is you as a man, as you as a boy, or you as a girl, or you as an animal, for crying out loud, we're supposed to be looking after them too, that they don't get hurt too. So get behind Senator Jacinta Napier-Price. I got to say, the legislation she's proposing, you all want to get behind it. And if you don't, and you're in trouble, what am I going to do? What are you going to do when you've been out there? I know that there's people out there saying, we've got to do this, we've got to address this, this is good. But what are them ones there? They're not doing nothing. And saying, it's out of mind, out of sight for me. No, it won't be when it happens to you.
Nina and Orlando were Australian citizens like you and me. They deserve outrage to demand an end to violence and murder. They deserve to be acknowledged the same way the women who protested to this very parliament deserve to be acknowledged.
Women went to Parliament to protest. And what are the politicians talking about? And what's the media lies up to, huh?
Their lives, like so many other lives taken in black on black violence, deserve better.
The black on black violence has become the very big agenda item in this, is because a section of the Aboriginal community in Australia have been saying, because it's all the white man's fault. He came in 1788. And then since then, we've just learned bad behaviour, then we adopted it and we did it, and then we learned how to go and do that terrible behaviour. About, that happened 100 years ago, and then, oh my gosh, we're just over the 230 plus years. The white colonialism has just taught us how to be more meaner and horrible, and it's all their fault. Rubbish. It's learned behaviour. Well, could be that too, but trying to register that.
Kids would have grown up in domestic violence, have turned up growing up themselves, doing domestic violence. It's a sad circle. When is it going to stop? When everybody goes, enough. We're all accountable. If we see it, we should call it.
Because it'll never happen to them.
Exactly. Oh no, I'm too precious. Nothing happens. Never. Why did it happen to one of their kids?
Throw money at it. Throw money at it. Throw money at it. Give them a blank check.
No, they are equal.
That's what they want.
You're equal. It's all
Because
right.
white Australia and multicultural Australia, it's all your fault that an Aboriginal person beats another Aboriginal person up.
What? We're all responsible
Exactly.
for our own actions.
Exactly. Back to the senator.
Community safety is pertinent to the lives of all Australians, and supporting our authorities to successfully provide community safety is key to ensuring it. When a child is forced to report sexual abuse, it is a police officer they must report to. Therefore, the strength of this relationship will determine the success of a conviction.
All right, disclosure. I've got to disclose to you, I've been left bloody beaten up and battered. Everyone around me said, yeah, nah, you'll be right. Sleep it off, you'll be... But I have to say, the policemen, when they were called in to come and have a look at me, they've broke up. There have been groups of friends and family, and there's been groups of police on the scene before with me. Another story, but anyhow, it happens sometimes to some people. But then a senior policeman walks in and he goes up and he just looks at the group. He looks at his other colleagues and he goes, "You idiots! Call this man a hospital. Call this man an ambulance now." Ever since then, I've never had more appreciation, respect for the police. It hasn't been the best relationship, and it's still not the best relationship I have with the police. They've done some horrible things in public just to shame me up, and after that they were found wrong, I've walked back to areas and told masses of school groups, and I said, look, I know what you've seen doesn't add up, and you maybe think that the policeman is not someone to trust, but you're in trouble, you call 000. That was just what happened between me and the police, just a crossed wires, miscommunication. We got the message all muddled up. Don't let that stop you, kid. If you're ever in trouble, 000 is the number you call. Anyway.
The police officer may be the only person that child can truly trust. Yet, there is an activist class determined to destroy the healthy relationships between our authorities and these vulnerable members of our society who need them the most.
Rick Pole, how about you cross the line with us? Why don't you come over to the picket site this side, eh? We're sick of them government people using as other forces that don't address this.
We must uphold the rights of all Australian children by maintaining the same high standards of quality of care for every child and never lower these standards based on racial identity. Nor should we do the same for any Australian citizen under any circumstances relating to social need. Perhaps it is time to give serious consideration to transferring state and territory responsibility for the lives of children to the Commonwealth. I'm acutely aware of the many failures of states and territories' child protection systems to uphold and prioritise the rights of Australian children who are not.
That's something I can do with my opposition, is I can protest with you to the doors of the Child Protection's DHS and housing services. We can unite on that front.
Not just our nation's most vulnerable, but who are our future. If we protect our most vulnerable and hold to account those who cause them harm, we can reduce violence and sexual abuse.
We owe that. We owe that to today's kids, because how many times have people looked after you when you were a kid? How many people have looked after you as a kid? It's time to give back, hairy man, hairy woman. Huh? If you're old enough to manscape, you should be able to do something about it anyway. Back to Senator.
Represent the interests of the victims before the perpetrators. However, reducing violence and sexual abuse also reduces rates of incarceration. In the 30 years since the handing down of the Royal Commission into black deaths in custody, we are told there have been 450 black deaths in custody. Despite the expectation the Commission would find systemic racism a fundamental factor contributing to these deaths, the report found it was not in fact the case. Nor did it find Indigenous Australians more likely than others to be incarcerated, but that we are grossly overrepresented. Our greatest problems lie with the fact that in the same 30 years, over 750 Indigenous Australians were murdered at the hands of other Indigenous Australians. Yet there is little concern or acknowledgement that this is why Indigenous Australians are incarcerated at such high rates. We cannot support legislation that fails to acknowledge the true causes of why Indigenous Australians are marginalised, or false narratives that suggest racism is the cause when it has been proven over and again that this is not the case. We cannot support legislation that prioritises freedom of the perpetrator over justice for the victim in an attempt to reduce rates of incarceration, or to minimise responsibility for criminal behaviour for the same purposes. The same standard of law and order must be upheld for all Australians, regardless of background. We must not allow the racism of low expectations to prevail.
Let's take this problem and make it. Let's make a
In
legislation
his book,
for
Arresting
everyone.
Incarceration, Pathways Out of Indigenous Imprisonment, Don Weatherburn, the former director of the New South Wales Bureau of Crime, Statistics and Research, outlines the causes that lead to incarceration. Leading factors include poor parenting, child abuse and neglect, poor school attendance and unemployment. These factors are cause for any person, regardless of race, to be more likely to commit an offence leading to incarceration. Just like Indigenous Australians are overrepresented in prisons, so too are they overrepresented in causal factors. Better employment outcomes contribute to better functioning households, where children are more likely to attend school more often. Like my distinguished predecessor, Senator Neville Bonner, I believe free enterprise, coupled with sound fiscal management in a progressive commercial environment, forms the basis for economic independence.
That hasn't happened in Australia for decades.
In other words, business and jobs are the key to economic health for a community, not the shackles of welfare dependency.
So, you politician, stop serving the rich. You take care of your middle class. You take care of your low incomes. We the people, we're the majority. Wake up, Australia.
Under the current Land Rights Act, coupled with growing welfare dependency, this environment has not had the opportunity to materialise for the marginalised traditional owners of the Northern Territory. This is a parlous situation I'm determined to improve. The intent of the Act was to provide access to conduct traditional activity and provide opportunity for economic use. But despite traditional owners having around 45% of the Northern Territory land mass and 80% of the coastline under the Act, and it serving over 30% of the Northern Territory population, it has failed to deliver economic independence or generate employment opportunities. Traditional owners have been left to pick the lock that the layers of gatekeepers have welded so hard around the Act. Despite over 90% of the land claims being completed across the Northern Territory and connection already being proven for generations, traditional owners are still being forced to repeatedly prove connection to place to successive anthropologists and representative bodies under the influence of opportunistic Indigenous community politics. It is a constant cycle of Indigenous industry gravy-trained consumers in a static system that gathers under the banner of opportunistic collectivism.
And that's what your ALP PM Anthony Albanese's all up to, isn't he? God, he's too busy chasing the Prime Minister's ghost of last. Snap out of it, DJ Elbow. Stop being a loser, mate. Address this country's problem and get off your bloody high horse, excuse the language. Get off your high horse of I'm taking Tories down and I'm going to more than bury this ghost. Stop it, Elbow. Knock it off, boy. Get off your beaten up former prime ministers. Get on with the job. We have a problem here, bud. Your middle class, your lower class. Not your high society. Not your, do I look good? Do I look good, everybody? No, Albanese. PM, snap out of it. Wake up. Get off your Tory slaying and start defending the Australian people, boy.
I believe in small government, which equates to small bureaucracy, so that Australians may get on with their lives more effectively. We must better determine where our national budget is being spent effectively and change expenditure accordingly where it is not. Fiscal management is integral to the success of a nation and therefore must be a leading component in all decision making. We have seen the immediate impact of the new Labor government's minimum wage increase, forcing small businesses to close. The cries of business people struggling with cost of living pressures, whose livelihoods are now destroyed, have fallen on deaf ears. This would have not occurred under a coalition-led government. Tax cuts are what delivers an increase in a worker's pay packets on payday. Tax cuts are what support small businesses to survive through the pressures of increased cost of living to ensure they do not have to lay up.
See, PM Albanese, if you want to keep on continuing with your Tory slaying, go right ahead. But you go and give some tax relief to the middle class and the lower class. So we'll take up the fight. We'll take this challenge on, Senator says, and you can go and do whatever. You can go jump on another plane, go and do another tour, go to Europe, you know, because what you're doing with your obsession of this Tory slaying is killing off the middle class, your fundraisers, the small businesses, the middle businesses that go to the school fetes and make a store and raise funding for the schoolhouses. Stop filling up and throwing money at things, Albanese. Get your hands dirty, boy.
Workers or close altogether. It is not only the private sector that is suffering. Non-government organisations that provide services to victims in domestic violence situations are now being forced to reduce staff numbers. These staff specialise in work specific to supporting victims of abuse and the reduction of family and domestic violence.
Hey, DJPM Albanese, why don't you go and do a big state government funding cut from the Commonwealth to say that we're cutting you state governments in your hospitals. We don't want administration. We want specialists. We want experts. We want the best in the world. We don't need people to just sit on their hands and type, tap, 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 tap on a computer. We need specialists. We need experts. We need the best in the world to come and help us.
Careful consideration must always be taken when delivering legislation so as not to produce outcomes that exacerbate already difficult circumstances. Due to the impacts of the recent pandemic, our nation is currently struggling with a worker shortage across many sectors and industries. Foreign workers have played an integral part in maintaining a strong and functioning national economy. The agriculture visa that the farming and agricultural industries have been desperately calling for must be implemented. Their family businesses should not suffer any more than they have during the last few years, where millions of dollars of crops have gone to waste for lack of availability of a workforce. The flow-on effects disrupt food supply and place strain on our economy. The strengthening of our national security and defence systems must be prioritised, given the geopolitical threats we are currently faced with. Simultaneously, we must encourage all Australians to recognise and take pride in our national identity, as historically we have done effortlessly. Yeah. Without a sense of unity and pride, we leave ourselves vulnerable to external forces that would delight in our demise.
We made ourselves as weak.
Along with my fellow senators, we have been elected to the 47th Parliament to represent Australians of all backgrounds, to be the voice of the voiceless. But in order to do this, we must listen with intent and serve with integrity. It is not for us to be silent on issues that affect a particular demographic that we may not ethnically originate from, or the gender we do not belong to. The purpose of our successful Westminster system is to courageously represent the interests of all. The tireless investment and effort of the former coalition government provided record funding for education support through scholarships and concentrated programs and investments such as the Yellow Shirt program, Getting Kids to School, investing in state and territory governments, universities and organisations. We know that education provides choices. We invested hard so that better choices have resulted in better communities and lives. We now see these benefits of this investment with more Indigenous doctors, architects, lawyers, teachers, business owners and tradespeople. Thank you to our Liberal and National Party leaders, to the my Country Liberal Party predecessor, Senator Nigel Scullion, and to every Indigenous person who took this opportunity to build a better future for yourselves and our nation. Your efforts are acknowledged. In Australia, we have experienced historically significant acts of symbolism that include the 1991 Reconciliation Walk across Sydney Harbour Bridge. For 6 hours, 250,000 Australians of all backgrounds walked together to demonstrate the fact we are not racist.
250,000 people. Where are you? Hey, we're decades down the track. Come back, Reconciliation Australia. We got something to do, huh? Legislation. Come back. Let's. I'll tell you the narrative of that march. Reconciliation, 250,000 people across Sydney. You know what the narrative in the mob is? It's because the bridge was shut for the day and the sun was out. It was about good 25 to 30 degrees. Who wouldn't go for a walk over the bridge, no matter what the cause was? Or you fair income in this? Or did you just walk that bridge just because it was a nice day? Or did you walk that bridge to take this struggle and this argument and this fight and the call for justice of reconciliation?
Once in a lifetime chance.
Yeah. Show Aboriginal Australia what your narrative is. 250,000 people who walked that Sydney Harbour Bridge that day. Na 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 na. Can't hear you.
but are overwhelmingly in support of Aboriginal Australia. We have spent a week every year since commemorating this event and what it means. Throughout Australia, the reinvention of culture has brought us welcome to country or recognition of country, a standard ritual practice before events, meetings and social gatherings by governments, corporates, institutions, primary schools, kindergartens, high schools, universities, workplaces, music festivals, gallery openings, conferences, airline broadcasts, and so on and so forth. I personally have had more than my fill of being symbolically recognised.
Correct. You know, we know, I know.
It has become a racial stereotype that we Australians of Indigenous heritage should belong to and support the Labor Party. It was an exchange with former leader of the Labor Party, Bill Hayden, who conveyed this very stereotype.
Okay, disclosure. I voted Labor once.
That compelled Neville Bonner to confirm his membership within the Liberal Party of Australia. Bonner had been handing out how to vote cards for a Liberal friend when Hayden exclaimed, "What are you doing handing out those how to vote cards? We do more for you bloody Aborigines than those bastards do." Well, Bonner thought, how dare someone come up to me and presume that because I'm black, I should support a particular party?
Go on, come say that to me, please. Please. We'll have a discussion. We won't have a fight or argument. But you think that I'll pull this out and we'll have a chat about it. If you see me out in the street, you see this video and you'd like to have your voice on this channel, I only have to ask. Just ask that you keep it kiddie friendly as much as I can. Do as I say, not as I do, huh? I'll try. And like I said, other videos, go back, rough as guts I am.
It is the same attitude we hear with platitudes of motherhood statements from our now Prime Minister, who suggests without any evidence whatsoever that a voice to Parliament bestowed upon us through the virtuous act of symbolic gesture by this government is what is going to empower us. This government has yet to demonstrate how this proposed voice will deliver practical outcomes and unite rather than drive a wedge further between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australia.
We already unite as far as I
No,
care.
Prime Minister, we don't need another handout
Let's
as you
do
have
this
described the
exercise
Uluru
together.
Statement to
It'll be
be.
good for us.
No, we Indigenous Australians have not come to agreement on this statement, as also what you have claimed.
Yes.
It would be far more dignifying if we were recognised and respected as individuals in our own right who are not simply defined by our racial heritage, but by the content of our character. I am an empowered Warlpiri Celtic Australian woman who did not and has never needed a paternalistic government to bestow my own empowerment upon me. We've proven for decades now that we do not need a chief protector of Aborigines. I've not got here along with 10 other Indigenous voices,
Please abolish
including my
Aboriginal
colleague,
affairs one day.
Senator for South Australia, Karen
vision.
Little, to this 47th Parliament of Australia, like every other parliamentarian. Through hard work and sheer determination, that's how we got here. However, Now you want to ask the Australian people to disregard our elected voices and vote yes to apply a constitutionally enshrined advisory body without any detail of what that might in fact entail. Perhaps a word of advice, since that is what you're seeking. Listen to everyone, and not just those who support your virtue signalling agenda, but
Not the
also
ones
to
in your
those
face every
you
day,
contradict.
because you won't go out in the streets
We
and
see
outreach.
we see two clear
MP,
examples this week of this failure
Media
to listen.
lies.
The news that grog bans will be lifted on dry communities, allowing the scourge of alcoholism and the violence that accompanies it free rein, despite warnings from elders of those communities about the coming damage. Coupled with this, the removal of the cashless debit card that allowed countless families on welfare to feed their children, rather than seeing their money claimed by kinship demand from alcoholics, substance abusers and gamblers in their own family group.
Yeah, disclosure. Look, I agree with this enterprise. I actually don't agree with the card in whole, but on the ground, if the mob and the elders in the community and the wider community saying this is what's needed, how can you argue with that? But, it's not the direction we want to do. But if prevention and diversion and all the alcohol and other drug sector programs that need to be installed there, and they're not working, and it needs to have a bit of a, I don't know, it's a difficult one, but see, we're not going to agree on everything, but I agree with Senator DeSenterprise's community and her district, and then going that they believe that this should continue. So Albanese, DJ, right, get off your Tory slaying and get back to the people, would you?
I could not offer two more appalling examples of legislation pushed by left-wing elites that are guaranteed to worsen the lives of Indigenous people.
Hello, Kuyong.
Yet at the same time, we spend days and weeks each year recognising Aboriginal Australia in many ways, in symbolic gestures that fail to push the needle one micromillimetre toward improving the lives of the most marginalised in any genuine way. But we must always remember that our nation is not simply black and white. We are rich with the contribution of Australians of many
all the
backgrounds,
colours here.
30% of who were born overseas. And this is one of our greatest strengths as a nation.
That's where I like Melbourne. We got the best multicultural community. We got the strongest Australian Greek community here. And what Daniel Andrews and his ALP did to the Greek Australian community in my town. You wait. I got my Greek Australian communities back. Huh?
My elders taught me that any child who is conceived in our country holds within them the baby spirit of the creator ancestor from the land. In other words, Australian children of all backgrounds belong to this land. They too have chukurpa, dreaming, and they too are connected spiritually to this country. This is what I know true reconciliation to be. These teachings cannot be delivered through legislation, nor through any corporate reconciliation action plan. These teachings are about what it means to be a modern human in an ancient land. It's time to stop feeding into a narrative that promotes racial divide, a narrative that claims to try to stamp out racism but applies racism in doing so and encourages a racist overreaction. Yes, it is time for some truth-telling.
Uneducated reaction.
Our nation's schools' sole responsibility should be to educate, not indoctrinate.
Absolutely.
But we have in recent times witnessed the overwhelming politicisation of our children. Children are now encouraged to skip school, to be paraded as activist spearheads, by adults who place the weight of the world on their shoulders. Meanwhile, children in remote communities, where school attendance rates are in some places as low as 19%, do not have the privilege of gaining an education that the activist class take for granted. Everyone wants to be an activist, to push governments to solve their dilemmas, but no one wants to be responsible for themselves. Our aim should not be to blame our current democratic institutions for all our perceived failures, but to encourage individual responsibility of all Australians.
1.3 back.
Where we fail is where
You
we
wanna point
encourage
fingers?
others to believe
Please come on back up,
responsibility
Justin,
for one's
please.
own life can be avoided and their disadvantage can be charged to another. We need to focus on nation building, not nation burning. Our laws, as they stand now, are not racist, as some will claim, but exist because we have overcome historical racist legislation. I would like to acknowledge each and every proud Australian who has joined me, supported me, and inspired me on my journey to this day. I would like to pay my respects to our nation's elders of all backgrounds who came together through hard work and sheer determination to forge an Australia we can all be proud of and whose shoulders I stand on at this momentous occasion. I want to thank my husband, Colin Lilly, for challenging me to challenge myself whenever I've needed. Thanks to my sons, Leland Castle, Ethan Castle, Declan Castle, and Kincaid Lilly, for your many forms of love that have nourished me. I want to acknowledge my brother Lino, whose life ended too soon, but whose love is always with me. I also want to acknowledge those who have worked to support the goals and aims I have outlined today, including my mother, former Northern Territory Minister, Bess Nungarai Price, my father, David Jurumandala Price, the Country Liberal Party of the Northern Territory, the Centre for Independent Studies, my Darada Tess Ross, and my Puli Teresa Ross, Heidi Williamson, Tamara Giles, Sharon Long, Warren Mundine, Elizabeth Henderson, Jamie DeBrenny, Peter Cochran, Susan Ingram, Jim Franklin, Irene Drazoulis, Anthony Dillon, my mixed up blackfella, whitefella family who've done nothing but love me all my life. And lastly, the people of the Northern Territory for trusting me to represent you.
Well done,
I'm here to
District
represent the
Lingard.
Northern Territory, but also to support people across Australia who are experiencing the same problems, and to help us all work towards real and lasting change. For Indigenous Australians, white Australians, from a myriad of other cultural backgrounds. Australian Wati, Yungalapa, Mapari, Waragikarmi. In other words, for all Australians.
Well, there you go. Well done, Australia. What a huge step. What a huge step. Look, everyone. I've gone a bit over. It took me a while to get going, but be encouraged if you want us to keep on delivering something on the channel. You please be a part of it. I'll do as good as I can, and I hope to surprise you down the track. Come and be with me on this journey as I get off my lazy tongue, so that I can start speaking correctly, so that everybody around the world can tune in on what's happening on the ground. It's at least in the northern parts of Melbourne, we can do that. We like to head into the city. We love to have a chat with people. We like to be approachable. If you want to be on our channel and have a chat. If you want us to do an interview, let us know. If you want to do anonymously, I guess I'll accept anonymous, and I can refer messages if you'd like me to say, Nick, can you please talk about that on your channel, bro? I'll have a go. I'll do it. You know, but like I said, if you agree with me, good. If you disagree with me, good. Still like this channel, still subscribe to it. If you want to go and share it and go and start up conversation on your social platforms, I encourage you. If don't defend me, I'll do all the defending myself. You keep busy defending yours and your own. My kids are all old enough, flowing the coop. I was a babe having babes, so I still got youth on my side. All I can do for you, my dear country, my beautiful people of my land of Australia that I live, and everyone that is with us and supports us and allies and friendships, we with you. And yeah, how good was it when the British came over to Australia? We taught them how to have cold beer at 9:30 in the morning. So Sunday sippers, mates, have a good one if you're on it. Have a feed, bit of water. So yeah, okay, Melbourne, Australia. Once the you can get on the program with this legislation that Senator Napadura Price has put forward to the country. So let's try to embrace that, because I think that can be a real problem solver. And it's no new thing that Aboriginal Australia, where we've been used as program models. You could say we're the lab rats of good program, but we do it pretty good. When we get a good one going, we're pretty good at coming together as a people with the small amount of people that we got. But this is the thing. This problem's too big for the same old heads doing it. We need you. We need fresh faces. We need stronger, more intelligent, more learned voices out there. We need more passion. We need more desire. We need balance. We need management, and we need to get more organised together. Okay, so here's in hope for that vision, because we all got a dream. All right, hold your dream. It's not going nowhere, but we need cause and vision to get there, people. And I want to try and help be that just a little stepping stone, a little helping hand, but you need a help. Let me try. If I don't know, my law, family law through my Aboriginal family is, if you don't know the answer, you tell the person, excuse me, I don't know the answer, but please give me your details. I'll go find somebody that knows the answer, and I will give it back to you, or I will give you that person's number to speak to them. So please don't abuse me, but use the heck out of me. I'm available for this channel and what we come up. I want it to be a community, a digital online community that we can just get together and I seek direction, guys. I really do. I can go out and go and take on my own personal issues and everything. Quite fine. I'm doing very well. On a personal note, I'm pretty excited. I got a job trial tomorrow, so back in the workforce after my business collapsed and hemorrhaged tens of thousands of dollars. So I've got to go back out and work for the man again. So try and get going again. So as you know, if you go through all the abouts and information about the Ninja's business, it was actually, this isn't where it was supposed to go, but here we are. As we all try to get ourselves together and dust ourselves down and rebuild. and build bonds again. Because I'm keep tuning in. I know that your trust is broken. I know that trust is gone in people. I'm not born yesterday. It's like, yeah, but Nick, what make you any different from all them other black fella come in here, or them white fella, or them multicultural fella come in, say, I'm gonna come and fix it, and they never do, eh, bruh? They never do. What makes you different? Every Aboriginal worker position I've held, every single community, all have said, what make you any different from these other ones that come here? They talk, and then they get what they want and fluff up their pockets, and then they take off. We never see them again. 250,000 Sydney people that crossed that bridge on Reconciliation Day. Come back. Senator Jacinta Napier-Price has got legislation on this. You want to go to the next level? Or was you just out there because it was a good day out in the sun?
And you're able to walk the bridge.
And you were able to walk the bridge.
Without paying a price.
You got anything you'd like to say add on to, darling?
Just remember, if you see domestic violence or children being assaulted, stand up, call it, ring the police. Doesn't matter what colour skin you wear, we're all classed as equal. Stop trying to separate white from black.
Call it out, eh? Call it out.
Exactly. Enough's enough. Everybody has to protect everybody.
Okay, she needs her own channel, doesn't she, people?
What can we come to?
No, you can sit on this channel. We'll just pick a day for you, and people can live. We've got a little idea, haven't we, darling? We're thinking about maybe a cooking, set up some cameras in the kitchen, and Jules a fantastic chef. Talk about smoke. I got all the boys when I go, and the girls that go to work. When I go to work and open my little lunchbox, they my God, this fella got gourmet meal. It's like, yeah. She loves me. So she feeds me well, and bit of advice. You want a happy man, hand him a beer. Always works. Anyway, gonna sign out. I'm super late for my favourite show, and I might tune in later. I'm enjoying this. As you see in the other videos, I love this. This is fun. So I'll sign off, and I'll keep on working at trying to get better with you. But I can't do it without you. That's for sure. Peace out. What was my little sign off? Monkey grippers, hold on to your monkey grips. The law's trying to take your hog. Catch us later. Yes. Oh, this is going to be fun.